Hey everyone, Nubkeks here, and welcome back to Metakeks, a show where we talk about the bigger issues surrounding Heroes of the Storm. And as you see, last year's Blizzcon hero announcements video playing in the background brings us to the topic of this video. Blizzcon is just around the corner. There's going to be new heroes announced, and I want to talk about what I want to see as those heroes. Last year it was 3 Warcraft heroes with Greymane, Lunara, and Cho'Gall. This year, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my favorite hero that I want to see from each franchise, from Warcraft, Starcraft, Diablo, and Overwatch. And I think I will cover them in that order in this video if you want to skip to whatever your favorite franchise is. What I want to do in this video as well is kind of push the boundaries on the type of heroes we're talking about, because it's always at Blizzcon that we hear about the really crazy ones like Cho'Gall, 2 people playing on the one body, 2 heroes stuck together, or the Lost Vikings, 1 player playing 3 heroes at once. So I'm going to be exploring some of the crazier things that could come out in these type of heroes. So without any further ado, let's dive into it and start off by looking at Warcraft.
Pain. Agony.
For Warcraft, I'm sure you all recognize the trailer for Cataclysm. The hero I want to see is Deathwing. Remember back earlier in the year when they did the teasers for Chromie with this image of a dragon's shadow passing over the battlegrounds, and everyone was freaking out, wondering what sort of dragon it would be. Chromie in some ways didn't quite live up to that expectation. Well, I think with Deathwing, Blizzard have the opportunity to do that. Now remember with Deathwing's a pretty big dude. He is a giant dragon, and that's what he should be in the game. Not a normal hero, kind of normal size, running around the battlefield and controlled like that, but instead, you guys ever played the Call of Duty games? You remember the AC-130s? These giant planes flying around, kind of circling the battleground and throwing all these bombs and big ammunition attacks down. That's what Deathwing should be. This giant dragon flying around with a sort of slow turning speed. He's got a lot of momentum behind him. He's a big dude. And you can fly, do these bombing runs and setting up your angles of attack. And all the strategies that would tie into that, like, okay, Deathwing is going to be ready to fly down this lane, let's all push in underneath him and get this really powerful push off. Or your enemy team could play around and say, okay, Deathwing, we just dodged his bombing run type attack, gonna take him a while to circle back around and be back in this team fight. Now is the time we push in and attack. I just think there's such a cool opportunity to do something totally different with Deathwing. Break the mold, and yeah, I mean, just cool for new people, cool for everyone. Let's face it, in the game, he's a giant dragon flying above the battlefield. What's not to love? Oh, and here's a cool idea too, I mean, tying into the Cataclysm, but we give Deathwing a heroic, or maybe a level 20 or something, called Cataclysm, where he permanently destroys part of the map. That'd be kind of awesome. Make it happen, please. Make it happen.
Base is under attack.
Next up, let's talk about Starcraft, and this is a kind of hero that's been talked about a lot. One of the sort of out there ideas that people are quite fond of and quite keen to see in the game, and that is the idea of a builder type hero, of a core replacement type hero. Basically, instead of being a hero that runs around and fights, what you're going to be doing is just building structures, make more structures, control the minions, maybe spawn out more minions. And I think the way to do it would be with the Adjutant from the Starcraft series. The Adjutant, she's got a very iconic voice, a very iconic look, and again, she would slot very easily onto the core in the game, and then you could focus on building out some SCVs. Maybe you can have 3 or 4 out, maybe a talent pick could increase the number you have or their respawn rate or something like that. And then much like, let's say, the Butcher collecting stacks of fresh meat from minions, you could have your Vespene gas or your minerals drop from minions. Maybe you'd have some sort of Vespene geysers or something, or mineral patches spawning at random parts around the battleground, and you would have to decide where you send your SCVs around. Do you want to send them to repair your buildings? Do you want to send them to build new things around the map? Or should they be out there collecting your resources to spend more stuff? Or send them to maybe these risky spots where you have these these nodes, these mineral nodes spawning out where they can mine and get a guaranteed large number of minerals. But then again, the enemy team could play around that. They could come and pick off your vulnerable SCVs as they're attempting to harvest stuff. And I was thinking about this the other day because I was playing Malfurion. You know, he's the archdruid, he's all into nature, all that sort of stuff. He has this level 7 talent called Mule. What does that do? Well, it calls down this robot from space, which then starts fixing your buildings through the power of technology. You know, that doesn't really fit with the theme of Malfurion, does it? It's kind of strange when you actually sit down and think about it. So I would actually like to see, they've been removing a lot of generic talents, and although it would be sad to see Mule go, I'd kind of like to see that removed and worked into just this entire new hero, just with its own specific identity. I think that would be awesome. It'd certainly be a pretty niche hero, but there's nothing wrong with that. Niche heroes are often the most interesting, and it also plays an amazing fan service to Blizzard and Blizzard fans. One of the best, if not the best, company making RTS games that has ever existed. Getting all those players from Starcraft, from Warcraft in, and getting to use their RTS skills in Heroes of the Storm and in that really specific way would be very, very cool. I think there's a great opportunity as well for skins with these heroes. I mean, at the moment, it's great for the Adjutant to bring her in because you've got all this new StarCraft 2 art, all these new assets come in from the Machines of War patch. Well, you could do other things, like you could have, I forget what her name was, but you know that Zerg lady who's kind of like a Zergy Adjutant in the Heart of the Swarm campaign? You could have her, and then you could have Zerg-themed buildings. Or hell, bring in the peons from Warcraft 3 and have all these Warcraft-themed buildings and Warcraft-themed minions marching down, and all the sort of voice files and everything that people know and love, and that type of playstyle that people know and love as well. People have been asking for it for a long time. Blizzard, this is the chance to bring her in.
Vespene Geyser exhausted.
Next up, let's talk about the Diablo series. I've never actually played very much myself, so I'm not an expert by any means, but one of the characters that really struck me as a very casual fan as being just super awesome, and I want to know who this is, who is this guy, what can he do, was Malthael from, well, most notably, I think, as you see in the background here, the cinematic for Diablo 3's expansion, Reaper of Souls. Who is this guy? Well, he is the Angel of Death. And I think this could play into a really cool aspect of the game, or a really cool type of strategy we haven't seen that much, which is, well, he could be a melee, he looks like a melee assassin, he looks cool. But melee assassins in Heroes of the Storm, they're often very fast-paced, they're often very explosive, lots of mobility and things like that. Well, what if we made one that was just very stately, very elegant, kind of moves at this sort of slow, steady pace. It's kind of certain that he knows it's going to happen. What better than someone a bit like the Grim Reaper, you know, the Angel of Death. The certainty of death coming towards you, just this inexorable force. Just walking forward slowly, playing around the ideas of, you know, being this sort of ethereal character as well, with attacks passing through him, maybe sucking the life out of his foes to power up some sort of shield that would help him move in, or just slow them down with the sort of icy, death-like attacks. Whereas Arthas, you know, Arthas is there and he fits into a similar type of role, but he's kind of brutal, he's big and brutal. I think with Malthael you've got the opportunity to explore that sort of cold march of death in a much more sort of sophisticated and elegant way. Quite creepy as well, and just, you know, just that feeling of you walk into the bush and this guy's in the brush looking at you. Nothing could be worse, you know, it's just death is here, death has come. I think that would be such a cool idea to explore in the game. We don't have much like that, and heck, we need more bad guys. We've got a lot of good guys in the game, bring out more bad guys, and the Diablo franchise, perfect place to get some.
Brother, why? The Nephilim will stop you.
No one can stop death.
Last but not least, let us talk about Overwatch, Blizzard's newest franchise. I think there's so many cool heroes in this game, and very easy to import heroes from Overwatch to Heroes of the Storm, I think, because they do have that sort of MOBA style abilities built into them. But there's one hero that from the start has stood out to me after Tracer. Let's be fair, Tracer, probably the first one, makes a lot of sense. But there's one hero after that that has stood out to me as someone that should really be in this game, and that would bring a really dynamic way of playing that hasn't been explored too much in the game, and that hero is d.va. I was hoping that she would be the one instead of Zarya that would be in the Machines of War patch, because her character in the game is a Korean pro gamer, and that would have fit really well in with the Starcraft 2 themed expansion. But it's not too late to bring her in now. Now the cool thing about d.va is that she's got two forms. She has her mech form, which is a big tanky warrior, a lot of hit points, kind of like a big bullet shield. It also has rocket thrusters, can fly her around. She can activate this sort of short lasting shield which absorbs kind of incoming projectiles. And she has her heroic ability, I suppose you would say, her ultimate, which is that when it's charged up, much like Tracer would charge it up, I think, in the game, you can activate it. She jumps out of her mech, and then the mech, after a short while, will explode and detonate and do a whole ton of area damage. The cool thing, though, about d.va is that she has this second form, this outside of her mech form, where she hops out. While she's outside of this form, she's very much like, she's kind of like Tracer, except without any abilities. Kind of a shitty Tracer, is I suppose how you would describe her. Very fast, very nimble and small, and does a decent amount of damage with her little gun. And when you're in this form, you don't have any abilities, but after fighting for a while, your mech gets charged up again and you get a fresh mech called down. If anyone ever played League of Legends, you'd be very familiar with this sort of dynamic with the hero Gnar, who's this little kind of little foxy kind of dude. I don't even know how you describe him. This little monster. He'd be quite weak and nimble, but then he would charge up and then boom, he'd turn into Mega Gnar, this big force, and you really have to play around it. Your strategies it's based around it. Which form is this hero in? And you could have the same thing with d.va. Like, okay, she's in her mech form, we need to be careful. It's this big bullet shield. She'd probably be blocking a lot of skill shots because she doesn't die when the mech dies. She just jumps out and is still alive. So you could have this dynamic of being, okay, she's in the mech form, big bullet sponge, it's gonna be quite hard to fight into them, but we wear it down, mech gets destroyed, boom, now we engage. d.va is in her human form, she's weak, she's vulnerable. The enemy team, maybe one of their main warriors is now this squishy backline hero, completely changes the face of the team fight. But then if you don't act on that, if you don't manage to come in and fight them at that point, then suddenly d.va gets to call her mech back in again. They now have a fresh mech. It's kind of like a fresh hero coming back in, kind of like Leoric with his respawns, back in the fight kind of at full efficiency very quickly. So it really focuses around these tempo swings of, okay, they're powerful because she has her mech, but now they're weak and they're vulnerable. And it's about, is the team with the d.va able to exploit that time where she has her mech available? Can they use that power to their advantage? And then can the enemy team punish the moments when her mech is not available? Can they work around that and take advantage of that weakness in the enemy team in the short little time frame that they have? I think it'd be a really cool way to play it. Also, of course, using the mech explosion heroic. It gets rid of the mech, so you want to use it when it's on low HP, and that could lead to some really cool clutch plays where you're trying to save her for low HP, but then blam, you stun her, and then you take out the mech before she gets to activate that heroic. Oh dear, suddenly no heroic in there. I don't know, I just think it'd be so cool. I've wanted to see d.va in this for ages. She's got great quotes, great personality, and could have really good kind of plays and riffs with the other StarCraft characters, obviously, because she would know them pretty well, being a StarCraft 2 pro gamer. But yeah, I just think that would bring such a cool new playstyle. Kind of similar to, in some ways to, say, playing around an Abathur clone or something like that, but actually building that in fundamentally to how a hero works. Just switching between these two forms with very different power spikes and differentials. Like Grey, you play around Greymane a little bit as well, but the two forms for Greymane are fairly even in terms of power. Just really, push that to a bit of an extreme. Mix things up that way. I think, I'd love to see d.va. More than anyone, more than Reinhardt, more than Winston, more than anyone like that. d.va is the one I want to see. Well, there you go, guys. Those are my predictions for BlizzCon, the 4 heroes from the 4 main franchises that I would really like to see. Try to push the box a lot with this video and come up with heroes that are quite creative, quite different from the type of heroes that we have now, that would add a lot of different strategies. And yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments. What heroes would you like to see from each franchise and why? Or if you want to expand on any of the ideas I've come up with here, like, do you have a great idea for how Deathwing could work or the sort of talents you could have? Let us know down in the comments below. Be really cool to talk about it. And I guess we'll find out next week when BlizzCon arrives what new heroes are actually going to be announced. So I guess I'll talk to you all then. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time for more Heroes of the Storm. Bye bye.